Question 1. The assessment process reveals a potential risk factor associated with a candidate's application for the Anicuns College entrance exam. This factor, while noted, is not definitively proven and requires further careful consideration before any action is taken. Which of the following represents the most appropriate approach to managing this situation? Option A. Share the identified risk factor with various college departments to solicit their opinions and potential concerns before making any decision. Option B. Immediately flag the candidate for potential disqualification based on the initial identification of the risk factor, pending further review at a later stage. Option C. Conduct a thorough, evidence-based investigation into the nature and validity of the potential risk factor, assessing its direct impact on the candidate's suitability for admission according to established college criteria. Option D. Disregard the risk factor entirely, assuming it is unsubstantiated and will not affect the candidate's academic performance or adherence to college regulations. Correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough, evidence-based investigation into the nature and validity of the potential risk factor, assessing its direct impact on the candidate's suitability for admission according to established college criteria. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need to identify potential risks with the ethical obligation to maintain confidentiality and avoid prejudicing individuals based on incomplete information. The Anicuns College entrance exam framework emphasizes a fair and objective assessment process, ensuring that all candidates are evaluated on their merits and potential, not on speculative or unsubstantiated concerns. The correct approach involves a structured, evidence-based review of the identified risk factors. This approach aligns with the principles of due diligence and responsible assessment mandated by the Anicuns College entrance exam regulations. It requires gathering objective data, assessing its relevance and impact on the candidate's suitability, and ensuring that any conclusions are supported by demonstrable evidence. This methodical process prevents arbitrary decisions and upholds the integrity of the entrance examination. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the initial identification of potential risks without further investigation is flawed because it can lead to premature judgment and discrimination. This violates the principle of fair evaluation, as it assumes guilt or unsuitability without due process. Another incorrect approach that involves immediate disqualification based on unsubstantiated concerns is ethically unsound and contrary to the spirit of providing opportunities. It fails to acknowledge the possibility of mitigating factors or the candidate's right to be assessed on their actual performance and qualifications. A third incorrect approach that involves sharing speculative concerns with other departments without a clear, established protocol for risk assessment and information sharing would breach confidentiality and could unfairly influence future interactions with the candidate, undermining the principle of a neutral and objective academic environment. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes objective evidence, adheres to established assessment protocols, and upholds ethical standards of fairness and confidentiality. This involves a systematic process of information gathering, risk evaluation, and evidence-based decision-making, ensuring that any actions taken are justifiable, proportionate, and in line with the Anicuns College entrance exam's commitment to equitable opportunity. Question 2. Benchmark analysis indicates that a prospective student applying to Anicuns College has a strong desire to enroll, but has a gap in their academic record that they are hesitant to disclose. The student believes that if this gap is known, it might negatively impact their chances of admission, despite having otherwise strong performance in recent standardized tests relevant to the Anicuns College entrance exam. What is the most appropriate course of action for the student to take regarding their application? Option A. Fully disclose all academic history, including the gap, and provide any relevant explanations or supporting documentation to the admissions committee. Option B. Omit the period of the academic gap from the application to present a more favorable academic timeline. Option C. Focus solely on recent test scores and hope that the admissions committee does not investigate the full academic history. Option D. Seek assistance from an external consultant to create a revised academic transcript that smooths over the gap. The correct answer is A. Fully disclose all academic history, including the gap, and provide any relevant explanations or supporting documentation to the admissions committee. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the integrity of the admissions process. The Anicuns College entrance exam regulations are designed to ensure fairness and meritocracy, requiring all applicants to demonstrate their knowledge and abilities independently. Misrepresenting qualifications or seeking an unfair advantage undermines these principles and can lead to severe consequences for both the applicant and the institution. Careful judgment is required to uphold ethical standards and regulatory compliance. The correct approach involves a direct and honest communication with the admissions office regarding the student's academic background and any potential discrepancies. This aligns with the Anicuns College entrance exam's emphasis on transparency and truthful representation of applicant qualifications. By proactively addressing the situation, the applicant demonstrates integrity and allows the admissions committee to make an informed decision based on accurate information, adhering to the spirit and letter of the exam's regulatory framework. This approach respects the established procedures and ethical guidelines for college admissions. An incorrect approach would be to submit an application that omits or misrepresents the student's previous academic performance. This constitutes a violation of the Anicuns College entrance exams regulations concerning the accuracy of application information. Such an action would be considered dishonest and could lead to the disqualification of the applicant, potentially impacting future educational opportunities. Another incorrect approach would be to seek external assistance to falsify records or create a misleading academic profile. This not only violates the exam's integrity, but also engages in fraudulent activity, which carries significant ethical and legal ramifications. Professionals facing similar situations should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical conduct and regulatory compliance. This involves 1. Identifying the core ethical dilemma and relevant regulations. 2. Gathering all pertinent facts accurately. 3. Evaluating potential courses of action against ethical principles and regulatory requirements. 4. Consulting with appropriate authorities or mentors if uncertainty exists. 5. Choosing the option that upholds integrity and compliance, even if it presents a more challenging path. Question 3. Investigation of the Anicuns College Admissions Department's current workflow reveals significant delays in processing applications. To address this, the department head proposes implementing a new, fully automated online submission system that requires all supporting documents to be uploaded simultaneously with the initial application form, drastically reducing the time applicants have to submit materials. This proposal aims to streamline the process and reduce the workload on admissions staff. Which of the following represents the most professionally responsible approach to optimizing the admissions process in this scenario? Option A. Immediately implement the proposed fully automated online submission system with simultaneous document upload requirements to expedite application processing and reduce staff workload. Option B. Conduct a thorough analysis of the current admissions process to identify specific bottlenecks and areas for improvement. Consult with relevant stakeholders, including current and prospective students, and develop a phased implementation plan for any proposed changes, ensuring clear communication throughout. Option C. Focus solely on reducing the number of required supporting documents to speed up the application review process, without altering the submission method. Option D. Extend the application submission deadline by 2 weeks to compensate for any potential delays caused by the new system, without making any changes to the submission process itself. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough analysis of the current admissions process to identify specific bottlenecks and areas for improvement. Consult with relevant stakeholders, including current and prospective students, and develop a phased implementation plan for any proposed changes, ensuring clear communication throughout. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the need for efficient administrative processes with the fundamental rights and expectations of students applying to Anicuns College. The pressure to optimize the admissions process, while understandable from an institutional perspective, must not lead to the compromise of fairness, transparency, or adherence to established academic regulations. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any process improvements do not inadvertently create barriers or disadvantages for applicants. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admissions workflow to identify bottlenecks and areas for improvement, followed by the development and implementation of changes that are clearly communicated to applicants and align with Anicuns College's stated admission policies. This approach is professionally sound because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the current system before making alterations. It ensures that any proposed optimizations are data-driven and have a clear rationale, minimizing the risk of unintended negative consequences. Furthermore, clear communication with applicants about any changes to the process is an ethical imperative, fostering trust and transparency. This aligns with the general principles of good governance and student welfare expected of educational institutions. An incorrect approach would be to implement changes without adequate prior analysis or consultation. For instance, unilaterally shortening deadlines without considering the impact on applicants' ability to gather necessary documentation or prepare their applications would be a significant ethical and potentially regulatory failure. This disregards the applicant's perspective and could lead to a less diverse and representative applicant pool, undermining the college's educational mission. Another incorrect approach would be to adopt new technologies or procedures without proper testing or training for admissions staff, leading to errors and confusion. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and professionalism, potentially violating principles of operational integrity and fairness. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear definition of the problem or objective, e.g., improving efficiency. This should be followed by information gathering, including an analysis of the current process and its outcomes. Next, potential solutions should be brainstormed and evaluated based on their feasibility, impact on stakeholders, especially applicants, and alignment with institutional policies and ethical standards. Finally, the chosen solution should be implemented with careful monitoring and evaluation, with mechanisms for feedback and adjustment. This iterative and stakeholder-aware process ensures that optimizations serve the broader goals of the institution without compromising its ethical obligations. Question 4. Cost-benefit analysis shows that renovating the college library would significantly enhance academic resources and student study environments, yielding long-term benefits. However, there is also a pressing and immediate need to expand student mental health support services due to a recent increase in student distress. Anicuns College has a limited budget that can only fully fund one of these initiatives in the current fiscal year. Which approach best aligns with the ethical and operational responsibilities of Anicuns College? Option A. Proceed with the library renovation, as the cost-benefit analysis indicates greater long-term academic gains. Option B. Attempt to fund both initiatives simultaneously, even if it means compromising the scope or quality of each. Option C. Focus on securing external grants exclusively for the library renovation, while addressing mental health needs with minimal existing resources. Option D. Prioritize the expansion of student mental health support services, deferring the library renovation to a future fiscal year. The correct answer is D. Prioritize the expansion of student mental health support services, deferring the library renovation to a future fiscal year. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in educational institutions where resource allocation must balance immediate needs with long-term strategic goals. The pressure to address a pressing student welfare issue, mental health support, conflicts with the potential for a significant, albeit less immediate, improvement in academic infrastructure, library renovation. Navigating this requires careful consideration of ethical obligations to current students, the institution's mission, and responsible financial stewardship, all within the framework of Anicuns College's operational guidelines and any relevant educational regulations. Correct approach analysis. Prioritizing the immediate and critical need for enhanced student mental health services, even if it means deferring a less urgent infrastructure project, aligns with the ethical imperative to safeguard student well-being. Anicuns College, like most educational institutions, has an implicit and often explicit duty of care towards its students. Investing in mental health support directly addresses this duty, potentially preventing more severe consequences for students and the institution. This approach demonstrates a commitment to student welfare as a foundational element of the educational experience, which is a core value in higher education. Incorrect approaches analysis. Deferring mental health support to fund the library renovation, despite the cost-benefit analysis suggesting long-term academic gains from the renovation, fails to acknowledge the immediate and potentially severe impact on student well-being. This approach prioritizes physical infrastructure over the immediate health and safety of the student body, which is ethically questionable and could lead to negative outcomes such as increased student distress, academic disengagement, and reputational damage for the college. Neglects the duty of care. Allocating funds to both projects simultaneously without a clear prioritization or a robust plan for securing additional funding would be fiscally irresponsible. This approach risks overextending the college's resources, potentially jeopardizing the successful completion of both initiatives and creating financial instability. It demonstrates poor financial planning and a failure to make difficult but necessary choices, seeking external grants solely for the library renovation, while neglecting the immediate need for mental health support, even if grants are readily available for infrastructure, overlooks the urgency of the student welfare issue. While external funding is valuable, it should not dictate institutional priorities when critical student needs are unmet. This approach prioritizes external funding opportunities over internal, pressing student welfare requirements. Professional reasoning. Professionals in educational administration should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying all stakeholders and their needs. This is followed by a thorough assessment of the urgency and impact of each potential course of action, considering ethical obligations and institutional mission. A comprehensive review of available resources and potential funding sources is crucial. Finally, decisions should be made based on a clear prioritization of student well-being and the long-term sustainability and reputation of the institution, adhering to all applicable regulations and ethical codes. Question 5. Quality control measures reveal a statistically significant pattern of unusual similarity between the answers provided by a candidate and those of another candidate who completed the exam in a different session, raising concerns about potential academic misconduct. According to the regulatory framework of the Anicuns College entrance exam, what is the most appropriate immediate next step for the examination board? Option A. Immediately disqualify the candidate from the examination based on the statistical anomaly. Option B. Inform the candidate of the observed similarities and provide them with an opportunity to explain the circumstances. Option C. Publicly announce the discovery of potential cheating to deter future incidents. Option D. Classify the findings as a minor procedural issue and proceed without further action. The correct answer is B. Inform the candidate of the observed similarities and provide them with an opportunity to explain the circumstances. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the institution's commitment to academic integrity with the need to address potential breaches in a fair and transparent manner. The Anicuns College entrance exam's regulatory framework emphasizes due process and adherence to established examination protocols. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any action taken is proportionate, evidence-based, and aligns with the principles of fairness and academic honesty. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation of the identified irregularities. This means gathering all relevant evidence, including the specific quality control findings, and then presenting these findings to the student in a clear and understandable manner. The student must be given a genuine opportunity to respond to the allegations and provide their perspective or any mitigating circumstances. This process ensures that decisions are not made unilaterally, but are informed by a comprehensive understanding of the situation, respecting the student's right to be heard. This aligns with the ethical principles of fairness and natural justice, which are implicitly embedded in the regulatory framework of any reputable educational institution, including those governed by the Anicuns College entrance exam standards. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify the student based solely on the initial quality control findings, without allowing for a response. This fails to uphold the principle of due process and could lead to an unjust outcome. It bypasses the necessary steps of investigation and student representation, potentially violating the spirit, if not the letter, of the examination regulations. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the quality control findings as minor or insignificant without proper review. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to take seriously potential threats to academic integrity. It could undermine the credibility of the examination process and set a precedent for leniency that compromises the fairness of future exams. A third incorrect approach would be to involve external parties or make public pronouncements about the alleged breach before a thorough internal investigation and a decision have been reached. This violates the student's privacy and could lead to reputational damage for both the student and the institution without a proper basis. It also preempts the established internal procedures for handling such matters. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. First, meticulously document and verify the quality control findings. Second, consult the relevant sections of the Anicuns college entrance exams examination regulations and institutional policies regarding academic misconduct. Third, initiate a formal investigation process that includes informing the student of the allegations and providing them with an opportunity to respond. Fourth, carefully consider all evidence and the student's response before making a reasoned decision. And finally, communicate the decision and any subsequent actions clearly and in accordance with established procedures. Question 6. When evaluating the ethical and regulatory implications of preparing for the Anicuns college entrance exam, which approach best aligns with the established framework for ensuring a fair and accurate assessment of candidates' abilities? Option A. Focusing exclusively on personal study and preparation using approved materials and adhering strictly to all exam rules and regulations. Option B. Researching and attempting to obtain past exam papers or leaked questions to gain an advantage in understanding the types of questions that may appear. Option C. Collaborating with other candidates to share study notes and discuss potential exam topics, even if some of the shared information is rumored to be from past exams. Option D. Exploring opportunities to network with individuals involved in the exam administration to gain insights into the grading criteria or potential areas of emphasis. The correct answer is A. Focusing exclusively on personal study and preparation using approved materials and adhering strictly to all exam rules and regulations. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the ethical imperative to uphold academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in a college entrance exam, especially one as significant as the Anicuns college entrance exam, can lead individuals to consider shortcuts or unfair advantages. The core of the challenge lies in navigating these pressures while adhering strictly to the established regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines of the Anicuns college entrance exam, which prioritize fairness, equal opportunity, and the accurate assessment of a candidate's knowledge and abilities. The correct approach involves a student focusing solely on their own preparation and understanding of the exam's content and format, as dictated by the Anicuns college entrance exam's official guidelines. This means engaging in honest study, utilizing approved resources, and participating in the examination process without any external assistance or attempts to gain an unfair advantage. This approach is ethically sound and legally compliant, because it respects the principles of meritocracy and fair competition that underpin the Anicuns college entrance exam. It aligns with the exam's purpose of objectively measuring a candidate's aptitude and knowledge, ensuring that all participants are evaluated on a level playing field. An incorrect approach that involves seeking or utilizing unauthorized assistance, such as obtaining exam questions in advance or using prohibited aids during the exam, represents a direct violation of the Anicuns college entrance exam's regulatory framework. Such actions undermine the integrity of the examination process, creating an unfair advantage for the individual and devaluing the achievements of honest candidates. Ethically, this constitutes academic dishonesty and a breach of trust. Legally, depending on the specific provisions within the Anicuns college entrance exam's governing laws, such actions could lead to disqualification, invalidation of results, and potentially further disciplinary actions. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to influence the grading process through personal connections or bribery, also fundamentally violates the principles of fairness and impartiality mandated by the Anicuns college entrance exam's regulations. This is not only unethical but also potentially illegal, as it corrupts the assessment process and undermines the credibility of the institution. The professional decision-making process for similar situations requires a strong commitment to ethical conduct and a thorough understanding of the specific regulatory framework governing the activity. Professionals must prioritize integrity, fairness, and compliance above personal gain or external pressure. This involves a conscious choice to act in accordance with established rules and ethical principles, even when faced with challenging circumstances. A robust decision-making framework would involve 1. Identifying the core ethical and regulatory principles at play. 2. Understanding the specific rules and guidelines of the Anicuns College entrance exam. 3. Evaluating potential actions against these principles and rules. 4. Choosing the course of action that upholds integrity and compliance. 5. Seeking guidance from appropriate authorities if uncertainty exists. Question 7. Market research demonstrates that prospective students perceive the Anicuns College entrance exam as somewhat outdated in its question formats, leading to concerns about its ability to accurately assess modern academic competencies. The college administration is considering ways to address this perception and improve the exam's relevance. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the principles of fair and effective academic assessment within the regulatory framework of the Anicuns College entrance exam? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive review of the current examination content and question types, gathering input from subject matter experts and recent examinees to identify specific areas for modernization and improvement, followed by a pilot testing phase for any proposed changes. Option B. Immediately introduce a significant number of complex, multi-part questions requiring advanced analytical skills, as observed in some international university entrance examinations, to signal increased rigor. Option C. Adopt question formats and styles that are currently trending in popular online educational platforms, regardless of their alignment with the Anicuns College's specific academic programs or assessment objectives. Option D. Focus on increasing the overall difficulty by reducing the time allocated per question and introducing obscure subject matter not directly covered in the typical preparatory curriculum. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive review of the current examination content and question types, gathering input from subject matter experts and recent examinees to identify specific areas for modernization and improvement, followed by a pilot testing phase for any proposed changes. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the pursuit of academic excellence and institutional reputation with the ethical imperative of upholding academic integrity and fair assessment practices. The pressure to achieve high rankings can inadvertently create an environment where the integrity of the entrance examination process might be compromised if not managed with extreme diligence and adherence to established protocols. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any proposed improvements are both effective and ethically sound, aligning with the Anicuns College entrance exam's regulatory framework. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing examination content and methodology, seeking feedback from subject matter experts and recent examinees, and then proposing evidence-based revisions to the exam structure and question types. This approach is right because it prioritizes a data-driven and consultative process, which is fundamental to maintaining the validity and reliability of the entrance examination. It directly addresses the market research findings by seeking to improve the exam's relevance and perceived fairness, thereby enhancing the college's standing. This aligns with the guiding principles of the Anicuns College entrance exam, which emphasize fairness, transparency, and the accurate assessment of candidates' aptitude. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement changes based solely on the perception of a need for modernization without rigorous validation. This could lead to the introduction of untested question formats or content that may not accurately measure the intended competencies, potentially disadvantaging some candidates and undermining the exam's credibility. Such an approach would fail to adhere to the established procedures for curriculum and assessment review, which are likely mandated by the Anicuns College entrance exam's regulatory framework to ensure consistency and fairness. Another incorrect approach would be to focus solely on increasing the difficulty of the examination to appear more selective. While selectivity is a component of a competitive entrance exam, an arbitrary increase in difficulty without a corresponding review of curriculum alignment or pedagogical soundness can lead to an assessment that is not a true measure of a candidate's potential, but rather a test of their ability to navigate an overly challenging or poorly designed exam. This would be ethically questionable as it could unfairly penalize capable students and would not be supported by the Anicuns College entrance exam's guidelines, which likely advocate for assessments that are challenging yet fair and aligned with educational objectives. A further incorrect approach would be to prioritize external perceptions or rankings above the internal integrity of the examination process. For instance, adopting question styles solely because they are used by other prestigious institutions, without considering their suitability for the Anicuns College's specific curriculum and assessment goals, would be a misstep. This would ignore the core purpose of the entrance exam, which is to select students best suited for the Anicuns College's programs, and could lead to a disconnect between the exam's outcomes and the college's educational mission. This would also likely violate the Anicuns College entrance exam's regulatory framework, which would expect a focus on internal validity and alignment. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, thoroughly understanding the market research findings and their implications. Second, consulting the Anicuns College entrance exam's specific regulatory framework and guidelines for assessment development and review. Third, engaging relevant stakeholders, including faculty, assessment experts, and potentially student representatives. Fourth, developing a proposal for changes that is evidence-based, ethically sound, and aligned with the college's educational objectives. And finally, implementing and rigorously evaluating any changes made to ensure their effectiveness and fairness. Question 8. Analysis of a candidate's actions during the Anicuns College entrance exam, considering the regulatory framework that strictly prohibits any form of academic dishonesty, including unauthorized collaboration and the use of external aids. Which of the following best describes the ethically and regulatorily sound approach for a candidate? Option A. Discreetly exchanging answers with a fellow candidate during the examination period. Option B. Consulting notes or textbooks that were not explicitly permitted by the exam administrators. Option C. Completing all sections of the exam independently, relying solely on personal knowledge and permitted materials. Option D. Allowing another candidate to copy answers from one's own completed exam booklet. The correct answer is C. Completing all sections of the exam independently, relying solely on personal knowledge and permitted materials. Explanation. This scenario presents a challenge in understanding the fundamental principles of academic integrity as defined by the Anicuns College entrance exam's regulatory framework. The core difficulty lies in distinguishing between legitimate collaborative learning and academic dishonesty, a distinction crucial for maintaining the fairness and validity of the entrance examination process. Careful judgment is required to ensure that candidates are assessed on their individual knowledge and abilities, not on the work of others. The correct approach involves a candidate independently completing the examination, utilizing only the resources explicitly permitted by the Anicuns College entrance exam guidelines. This aligns with the regulatory framework's emphasis on individual merit and the prohibition of any form of external assistance or unauthorized collaboration. Adhering to this approach ensures compliance with the exam's integrity rules, which are designed to create a level playing field for all applicants and to accurately measure their preparedness for higher education. An incorrect approach of sharing answers during the examination constitutes a direct violation of the Anicuns College entrance exam's academic integrity policy. This action undermines the assessment's purpose and is considered a form of cheating, which carries severe penalties. Another incorrect approach, such as using unauthorized reference materials, also breaches the exam's rules regarding permitted resources. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of the boundaries set for the assessment and an attempt to gain an unfair advantage. A third incorrect approach, such as allowing another candidate to copy one's work, is equally unethical and violates the principle of individual responsibility for one's academic performance. The professional decision-making process for candidates facing such situations should begin with a thorough understanding of the Anicuns College entrance exam's rules and regulations. Before the exam, candidates should review all provided guidelines regarding permitted and prohibited conduct. During the exam, if a candidate encounters a situation where they are unsure about the permissibility of an action, they should err on the side of caution and refrain from the action, or seek clarification from an invigilator if the exam rules permit such interaction. The overarching principle is to act with honesty and integrity, ensuring that all work submitted is genuinely one's own. Question 9. The evaluation methodology shows that a student, upon receiving their Anicuns College entrance exam results, contacts the admissions office requesting a review of their performance, stating they believe a mistake was made and asking for specific feedback on their incorrect answers to understand how to improve. Which of the following represents the most appropriate professional response? Adhering strictly to the Anicuns College entrance exam's regulatory framework and ethical guidelines. Option A. Offer to adjust the student's score slightly to reflect their perceived effort and desire to improve, as a gesture of goodwill and to encourage future academic pursuits. Option B. Immediately review the student's exam and provide them with detailed explanations of why each of their incorrect answers was marked as such, along with suggestions for improvement. To foster a positive student experience, Option C. Advise the student that their score is final and that no further review or feedback is possible, as the Anicuns College entrance exam is designed to be a one-time, definitive assessment. Option D. Inform the student about the official grade appeal process as outlined in the Anicuns College entrance exam regulations and direct them to the relevant documentation for initiating such a review, while explaining that specific feedback on incorrect answers is not provided outside of this formal process. The correct answer is D. Inform the student about the official grade appeal process as outlined in the Anicuns College entrance exam regulations and direct them to the relevant documentation for initiating such a review, while explaining that specific feedback on incorrect answers is not provided outside of this formal process. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the student's request directly conflicts with the established academic integrity policies of Anicuns College. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the institution's commitment to fair and accurate assessment with the student's desire to improve their performance, potentially through means that undermine the integrity of the evaluation process. Careful judgment is required to uphold academic standards while also considering the student's circumstances, though not at the expense of the established rules. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the Anicuns College entrance exam's established procedures for grade appeals and academic integrity. This means informing the student about the official channels for addressing concerns about their evaluation, which typically involve a formal review process or an appeal mechanism outlined in the student handbook or examination regulations. This approach is correct because it upholds the principle of fairness to all candidates by ensuring that evaluations are conducted and reviewed according to predefined, transparent rules. It also reinforces the importance of academic integrity, a cornerstone of any educational institution, by not allowing individual exceptions that could compromise the validity of the entrance exam results. The Anicuns College entrance exam regulations, as per its governing framework, mandate adherence to these procedures to maintain the credibility of the selection process. An incorrect approach would be to directly alter the student's score based on their personal appeal, or to provide them with specific answers or insights into their incorrect responses outside of the official review process. This is professionally unacceptable because it violates the Anicuns College entrance exam's commitment to objective and standardized assessment. Providing preferential treatment or allowing unauthorized access to evaluation details undermines the fairness of the examination for all other applicants. It also creates a precedent that could lead to further requests for special consideration, eroding the integrity of the entire admissions process. Such actions would be in direct contravention of the principles of academic honesty and equitable treatment as stipulated by the Anicuns College entrance exam's regulatory framework. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the student's concerns outright without explaining the established procedures. While the student's request may not be permissible, a professional response should still guide them towards the correct avenues for addressing their academic concerns, even if those avenues are unlikely to result in a score change. Ignoring the student or being dismissive is unprofessional and fails to uphold the college's responsibility to provide clear guidance on its academic policies. Professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Understanding and clearly recalling the specific regulations and policies of the Anicuns College entrance exam regarding student evaluations, appeals, and academic integrity. 2. Identifying the student's request and assessing its alignment with these established policies. 3. Prioritizing adherence to the regulatory framework and ethical principles of fairness and academic honesty. 4. Communicating the relevant policies and procedures to the student in a clear, respectful, and professional manner, guiding them towards the appropriate official channels if any exist. 5. avoiding any actions that could compromise the integrity or fairness of the examination process for any candidate. Question 10. Compliance review shows a proctor observed a student repeatedly looking towards another student's answer sheet during the Anicuns College entrance exam. The proctor suspects potential academic misconduct, but is unsure of the best immediate course of action to ensure fairness and uphold exam regulations. Option A. Discreetly observe the student's behavior further, document specific instances of looking at another's paper, and report the observations to the chief invigilator for further investigation according to Anicuns College entrance exam protocols. Option B. Ignore the behavior, assuming the student was merely looking around the room. Option C. Publicly announce that looking at other students' papers is not allowed and warn all students. Option D. Immediately stop the student and confiscate their exam paper, assuming academic misconduct has occurred. Correct answer is A. Discreetly observe the student's behavior further, document specific instances of looking at another's paper, and report the observations to the chief invigilator for further investigation according to Anicuns College entrance exam protocols. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to excel and the ethical imperative to uphold academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in the Anicuns College entrance exam can lead students to seek shortcuts, making it crucial for educators and proctors to maintain vigilance and adhere strictly to established protocols. The core of the challenge lies in identifying and responding appropriately to potential breaches of examination rules without unfairly penalizing students or compromising the fairness of the assessment. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented process of observation, evidence gathering, and reporting. This entails discreetly observing the student's behavior, noting specific actions that appear to violate exam regulations, and then reporting these observations to the designated examination authority or supervisor. This method ensures that any disciplinary action is based on concrete evidence and follows the established procedures of the Anicuns College entrance exam, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the examination process and ensuring fairness to all candidates. An incorrect approach would be to immediately confront the student publicly or to ignore the suspicious behavior. Public confrontation can cause undue distress to the student and disrupt the examination environment for others, potentially leading to accusations of unfair treatment. Ignoring the behavior, on the other hand, constitutes a failure to uphold the examination's integrity and could allow a student to gain an unfair advantage, undermining the credibility of the Anicuns College entrance exam. Another incorrect approach would be to make an assumption about the student's intent without sufficient observation, or to act solely on hearsay from another student. This lacks the necessary objectivity and evidence-based decision-making required in such sensitive situations. Professionals in this context should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes observation, documentation, and adherence to established procedures. This involves remaining calm, objectively assessing the situation, gathering factual information, and reporting findings through the proper channels. The focus should always be on maintaining the fairness and integrity of the examination process, as defined by the Anicuns College entrance exams regulations. Question 11. Research into existing study guides and preparatory materials for the Anicuns College entrance exam has revealed valuable insights into common student challenges. To enhance the effectiveness of new preparation materials, a developer is considering incorporating these insights. Which of the following actions best upholds the integrity of the Anicuns College entrance exam's regulatory framework and ethical guidelines? Option A. Directly copying sections of the existing study guides that highlight common student challenges, making minor word changes to avoid direct duplication, and presenting them as newly discovered insights. Option B. Using the core concepts and methodologies presented in the existing materials to create new explanations, but omitting any mention of the original sources, arguing that the underlying principles are common knowledge. Option C. Thoroughly reviewing the existing materials, identifying key themes and areas of difficulty, and then developing original content that addresses these points, with clear and accurate citations for any direct or indirect references to the original research or ideas. Option D. Summarizing the findings from existing materials without any acknowledgement of their source, implying that these insights were independently derived. The correct answer is C. Thoroughly reviewing the existing materials, identifying key themes and areas of difficulty, and then developing original content that addresses these points, with clear and accurate citations for any direct or indirect references to the original research or ideas. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate the ethical and regulatory landscape surrounding academic integrity and the responsible use of research findings. The core difficulty lies in balancing the desire to contribute to academic discourse with the obligation to adhere to the established standards of the Anicuns College entrance exams regulatory framework, which prioritizes originality and proper attribution. Careful judgment is required to avoid plagiarism and ensure that any research incorporated into the entrance exam preparation materials is presented in a manner that respects intellectual property and the integrity of the examination process. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the Anicuns College entrance exam-specific guidelines regarding the use of external materials and the definition of academic misconduct. This approach prioritizes understanding and adhering to these regulations by ensuring that any borrowed ideas or information are properly cited and attributed, thereby avoiding any form of plagiarism. This aligns with the ethical imperative of academic honesty and the regulatory framework that underpins the integrity of the entrance examination. An incorrect approach that involves directly copying or paraphrasing without attribution fails to meet the regulatory requirements for originality and academic integrity. This constitutes plagiarism, a serious ethical and regulatory violation that undermines the fairness and validity of the entrance exam. Another incorrect approach, which involves presenting the research as entirely original work without acknowledging the source, also violates the principles of academic honesty and the specific guidelines of the Anicuns College entrance exam concerning intellectual property. A third incorrect approach, which might involve selectively presenting findings to create a misleading impression, could also be considered a breach of academic integrity, as it deviates from the truthful and transparent representation of research. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the Anicuns College entrance exam's specific rules and ethical codes. This should be followed by a careful assessment of how any external research can be incorporated in a way that is both informative and compliant. When in doubt, seeking clarification from the examination authorities or academic advisors is a crucial step in ensuring adherence to regulations and ethical standards. Question 12. Benchmark analysis indicates that Anicuns College is considering how to present its recent entrance exam performance data to prospective students and their families. Which approach to impact assessment best upholds the institution's commitment to transparency and ethical communication? Option A. Highlighting only the most impressive statistics, such as the highest scores achieved by a small cohort, while omitting data on overall pass rates or areas where the cohort struggled. Option B. Conducting a thorough analysis that includes overall performance metrics, identifies specific areas of strength and weakness within the applicant pool, and outlines strategies for supporting student development in identified challenging areas. Option C. Focusing exclusively on the perceived difficulty of the exam, suggesting that a lower overall pass rate is a testament to the college's high academic standards, without providing context on the applicant pool's preparation. Option D. Presenting a generalized overview of the exam results without any specific data points or analysis, to avoid potentially negative interpretations by any stakeholder group. The correct answer is A. Highlighting only the most impressive statistics, such as the highest scores achieved by a small cohort, while omitting data on overall pass rates or areas where the cohort struggled. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the desire to present a positive institutional image and the ethical obligation to accurately reflect the institution's performance and challenges. The Anicuns College entrance exam, like any educational institution, must maintain transparency and integrity in its reporting and communication. A deep analysis of impact assessment requires understanding how different approaches to presenting information can affect stakeholders, including prospective students, parents, faculty, and the broader community. The correct approach involves a comprehensive and balanced impact assessment that acknowledges both successes and areas for improvement. This aligns with the ethical principles of honesty and integrity, which are paramount in academic institutions. Specifically, Regulatory frameworks governing educational institutions often emphasize accurate reporting of admissions data, student outcomes, and institutional performance. A balanced assessment ensures that stakeholders can make informed decisions based on a realistic understanding of the college. This approach fosters trust and credibility, which are essential for long-term institutional health and reputation. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on positive outcomes without acknowledging challenges would be ethically unsound and potentially violate regulatory guidelines that mandate truthful representation. This could mislead prospective students about the rigor or support systems available, leading to dissatisfaction and potential attrition. Another incorrect approach, which exaggerates negative aspects to the point of undermining confidence, would also be detrimental, failing to acknowledge the institution's strengths and progress. This could deter qualified applicants and negatively impact morale. A third incorrect approach, which avoids any form of impact assessment altogether, represents a failure of due diligence and a disregard for accountability. This lack of proactive evaluation prevents the institution from identifying areas for growth and improvement, ultimately hindering its ability to serve its students effectively. Professionals in educational administration should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical considerations and regulatory compliance. This involves a commitment to data-driven analysis, stakeholder engagement, and transparent communication. When conducting impact assessments, it is crucial to consider the potential consequences of different reporting strategies on all relevant parties. A balanced perspective, grounded in evidence and ethical principles, is always the most professional and sustainable path. Question 13. Comparative studies suggest that while the pressure to succeed on entrance examinations is a universal phenomenon, the methods employed by students to navigate this pressure can vary significantly. Considering the specific regulatory framework of the Anicuns College entrance exam, which emphasizes individual merit and prohibits any form of academic misconduct, which of the following student actions best exemplifies adherence to these guidelines when faced with challenging exam content? Option A. A student attempts to subtly observe the answer sheet of a nearby candidate who appears confident and knowledgeable. Option B. A student shares their exam booklet with a classmate during a scheduled break, claiming it's to help them catch up on missed material. Option C. A student meticulously reviews their notes and attempts to answer each question based on their understanding and preparation, even if it means leaving some questions unanswered due to lack of knowledge. Option D. A student discreetly uses a prearranged signal to communicate with a friend in another testing room to obtain answers to difficult questions. Correct answer is C. A student meticulously reviews their notes and attempts to answer each question based on their understanding and preparation, even if it means leaving some questions unanswered due to lack of knowledge. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the ethical imperative to uphold academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in a college entrance exam, especially in a competitive environment like the Anicuns College entrance exam, can lead students to consider shortcuts. However, the regulatory framework governing such exams strictly prohibits any form of academic dishonesty, as it undermines the fairness and validity of the assessment process. Careful judgment is required to navigate these pressures ethically and in compliance with established rules. The correct approach involves a student relying solely on their own knowledge and preparation, understanding that the exam is designed to assess their individual capabilities. This aligns with the core principles of academic integrity, which are foundational to the Anicuns College entrance exam's regulatory framework. Specifically, the exam's guidelines emphasize fair play and the prohibition of any external assistance or unauthorized materials. Adhering to this approach ensures that the student's score accurately reflects their learning and effort, upholding the integrity of the examination process and respecting the efforts of other candidates. An incorrect approach that involves seeking or using unauthorized assistance, such as obtaining exam questions in advance or collaborating with others during the exam, represents a direct violation of the Anicuns College entrance exam's regulations. This constitutes academic dishonesty, which is a serious offense. Ethical failure lies in deceiving the examination board and other candidates, creating an unfair advantage. Such actions erode trust in the examination system and can lead to severe penalties, including disqualification from the exam and potential future academic repercussions. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to manipulate the exam environment by creating distractions or disrupting other candidates, also violates the exam's regulatory framework. While not directly related to obtaining answers, it undermines the orderly and fair conduct of the examination. The ethical failure here is a disregard for the rights and concentration of fellow students, creating an environment that is not conducive to fair assessment. This behavior is typically addressed by exam proctors and can result in immediate removal from the testing site. A professional decision-making process in such situations should begin with a thorough understanding of the Anicuns College entrance exam's rules and regulations. Before the exam, students should focus on diligent preparation and self-assessment. During the exam, if faced with a difficult question, the professional approach is to attempt it to the best of their ability, skip it, and return later if time permits, or acknowledge that they may not know the answer, rather than resorting to unethical means. The guiding principle should always be to act with honesty, integrity, and respect for the established rules and fellow candidates. Question 14. The monitoring system demonstrates a statistically significant deviation in the response times for a specific section of the Anicuns College entrance exam compared to historical averages and peer institution benchmarks. This deviation is not immediately explained by known technical issues. Option A. Initiate a comprehensive review of the exam section's data, cross-referencing with other performance indicators and consulting Anicuns College entrance exam protocols for anomaly investigation. Option B. Immediately halt the examination for all candidates and issue a public statement regarding a potential data breach. Option C. Assume the deviation is a minor system error and proceed without further investigation, documenting it as a known but insignificant anomaly. Option D. Contact a single external IT consultant for an immediate assessment, without consulting internal Anicuns College entrance exam procedures or data. The correct answer is A. Initiate a comprehensive review of the exam section's data, cross-referencing with other performance indicators, and consulting Anicuns College entrance exam protocols for anomaly investigation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the potential for misinterpreting data from a monitoring system, which could lead to incorrect decisions impacting student welfare and institutional reputation. The core difficulty lies in distinguishing between normal fluctuations and genuine indicators of a problem requiring intervention, all within the specific regulatory framework of the Anicuns College entrance exam. Careful judgment is required to ensure that actions taken are proportionate, evidence-based, and compliant with established guidelines. The correct approach involves a systematic and evidence-based review of the monitoring system's output. This entails cross-referencing the observed anomaly with established performance benchmarks and historical data, seeking corroborating evidence from multiple sources, and consulting relevant Anicuns College entrance exam guidelines on data interpretation and intervention protocols. This approach is correct because it adheres to the principles of due diligence and responsible data handling mandated by the Anicuns College entrance exam's operational framework. It prioritizes accuracy and fairness by avoiding hasty conclusions and ensuring that any subsequent actions are justified by robust evidence, thereby upholding the integrity of the examination process. An incorrect approach of immediately escalating the anomaly without further investigation is professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a lack of due diligence and an overreaction to preliminary data. It bypasses the critical step of verifying the anomaly's significance and potential causes, leading to unnecessary disruption and potentially unfounded accusations or interventions, which would be a violation of the Anicuns College entrance exam's procedural fairness guidelines. Another incorrect approach of dismissing the anomaly as a minor system glitch without any form of verification is also professionally unsound. Demonstrates a disregard for potential irregularities and a failure to adhere to the Anicuns College entrance exam's requirement for thoroughness in monitoring and reporting. Such an approach risks overlooking genuine issues that could compromise the examination's integrity or student fairness, directly contravening the spirit of the regulatory framework. A third incorrect approach of relying solely on anecdotal reports from a single source to confirm the anomaly, without consulting the monitoring system's objective data or established protocols, is flawed. This introduces bias and subjectivity into the decision-making process, deviating from the Anicuns College entrance exam's emphasis on objective data analysis and standardized procedures. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, acknowledge and document the observed data from the monitoring system. Second, consult the Anicuns College entrance exam-specific guidelines for interpreting such data and identifying potential issues. Third, gather additional objective evidence to corroborate or refute the initial observation. Fourth, if the anomaly is confirmed and deemed significant, follow the prescribed escalation and intervention procedures outlined by the Anicuns College entrance exam. This systematic process ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and aligned with regulatory requirements. Question 15. Regulatory review indicates that a student, while waiting for the Anicuns College entrance exam to begin, accidentally discovers a set of unauthorized examination questions and answers left behind by a previous candidate. The student is aware that possessing and using such materials would constitute a serious breach of examination regulations. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound course of action for the student? Option A. Share the discovered materials with a few trusted friends who are also taking the exam. Option B. Immediately report the discovery of the unauthorized materials to the examination proctor or designated authority before the exam commences. Option C. Ignore the materials and proceed with the exam as if nothing was found. Option D. Discreetly pocket the materials and attempt to use them during the exam to improve their score. The correct answer is B. Immediately report the discovery of the unauthorized materials to the examination proctor or designated authority before the exam commences. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the integrity of the examination process. The pressure to perform well in a college entrance exam, especially one as significant as the Anicuns College entrance exam, can lead individuals to consider unethical shortcuts. Careful judgment is required to uphold academic honesty and the fairness of the selection process. The correct approach involves a student recognizing the ethical implications of possessing unauthorized examination materials and immediately reporting this discovery to the appropriate examination authority. This upholds the principle of academic integrity, which is fundamental to the Anicuns College entrance exam's regulatory framework. By proactively disclosing the information, the student contributes to maintaining a fair and equitable testing environment for all candidates, preventing potential advantages gained through illicit means. This aligns with the spirit of the exam's regulations, which implicitly and explicitly prohibit any form of cheating or unfair advantage. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the discovery and proceed with the exam without reporting it. This constitutes a failure to uphold academic integrity and potentially allows for an unfair advantage, violating the spirit and letter of the exam's regulations. Another incorrect approach would be to attempt to use the unauthorized materials during the exam. This is a direct violation of examination rules and would result in severe penalties, undermining the credibility of the entire examination process. Finally, sharing the unauthorized materials with other students is also a grave ethical and regulatory breach, as it actively facilitates cheating and compromises the fairness of the exam for a wider group. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of ethical obligations and regulatory requirements. Students should be educated on the importance of academic honesty and the consequences of academic misconduct. When faced with such a dilemma, the immediate priority should be to report the situation to the designated examination officials, ensuring that the integrity of the Anicuns College entrance exam is preserved. This proactive and honest stance is the hallmark of ethical conduct in academic and professional settings. Question 16. Consider a scenario where a faculty member at Anicuns College is involved in the admissions committee for the Anicuns College entrance exam. This faculty member's niece is applying to the college through the same entrance exam. The niece has met the minimum academic requirements, but is not among the top-scoring candidates. The faculty member is aware of this and feels a personal obligation to ensure their niece gains admission. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound approach for the faculty member to take in this situation, strictly adhering to the Anicuns College entrance exam framework? Option A. The faculty member should recuse themselves from any discussion or decision-making regarding their niece's application and ensure the evaluation proceeds based solely on merit according to the established exam criteria. Option B. Faculty member should discreetly inform their niece about the strengths and weaknesses of other candidates to help her understand her position relative to the competition. Option C. The The faculty member should advocate for their niece, highlighting her potential and suggesting that her family connection might be a positive factor in her overall suitability for the college. Option D. The faculty member should ensure their niece's application is given special consideration, even if it means slightly adjusting the interpretation of the scoring criteria to favor her. The correct answer is A. The faculty member should recuse themselves from any discussion or decision-making regarding their niece's application and ensure the evaluation proceeds based solely on merit according to the established exam criteria. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and the potential for undue influence or bias in the admissions process. The Anicuns College entrance exam framework emphasizes fairness, transparency, and meritocracy. Therefore, any action that compromises these principles, such as allowing personal relationships to sway admissions decisions, is a direct violation of the exam's regulatory and ethical underpinnings. The correct approach involves a rigorous and impartial evaluation of all candidates based solely on their academic merit and adherence to the exam's established criteria. This upholds the principle of equal opportunity, ensuring that admission is granted to those most qualified, irrespective of personal connections. This aligns with the Anicuns College entrance exam's commitment to a fair and transparent selection process, preventing any perception of favoritism or impropriety. An incorrect approach that involves prioritizing a candidate due to a personal relationship with a faculty member fails to adhere to the meritocratic principles of the exam. This constitutes a breach of ethical conduct by introducing bias and undermining the integrity of the admissions process. Such an action could lead to the admission of less qualified candidates, thereby devaluing the academic standards of the institution and potentially facing disciplinary action for violating the exam's regulations on impartiality. Another incorrect approach, which involves subtly suggesting to the candidate that their family connection might be beneficial without explicitly promising preferential treatment, is still ethically problematic. While not a direct promise, it creates an expectation of favoritism and can still influence the candidate's perception and potentially the evaluator's subconscious bias. This approach lacks the transparency and objectivity required by the Anicuns College entrance exam. A further incorrect approach, which involves ignoring the candidate's application altogether due to the personal connection, is also professionally unsound. While it avoids direct favoritism, it fails to uphold the principle of fair evaluation for all applicants. The candidate still deserves a proper assessment based on their qualifications, and a complete disregard for their application due to a relationship is an abdication of professional responsibility. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the Anicuns College entrance exam's ethical guidelines and regulatory framework. Professionals must prioritize impartiality, transparency, and merit. When faced with a potential conflict of interest or the appearance of impropriety, the best practice is to recuse oneself from any decision-making process involving the candidate, and to ensure that the evaluation is conducted by individuals without any personal connection to the applicant, strictly adhering to the established academic criteria. Question 17. The performance metrics show a significant number of students struggling with specific sections of the Anicuns College entrance exam practice materials, yet the overall pass rate for the practice tests remains high due to strong performance in other areas. How should the college communicate these findings to prospective students to encourage improvement without causing undue anxiety? Option A. Emphasize the areas where students are excelling to boost confidence, while subtly suggesting that further review of all topics is always beneficial. Option B. Highlight the overall high pass rate and mention that while some areas need attention, the general performance is strong, suggesting a positive outlook. Option C. Transparently present the data, detailing both the strong performance areas and the specific sections requiring improvement, and offer targeted resources and study groups for those areas. Option D. Focus on the overall positive trend in performance metrics, attributing the high pass rate to the effectiveness of the college's preparatory resources. The correct answer is B. Highlight the overall high pass rate and mention that while some areas need attention, the general performance is strong, suggesting a positive outlook. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for efficiency with the ethical imperative of providing accurate and unbiased information to students. The Anicuns College entrance exam framework emphasizes fairness and transparency in its assessment processes. Misrepresenting performance data, even with the intention of motivating students, can lead to a breach of trust and undermine the integrity of the examination. The correct approach involves transparently communicating performance metrics, highlighting areas for improvement, and offering targeted support. This aligns with the ethical guidelines of educational institutions, which prioritize student well-being and academic integrity. By providing honest feedback and actionable resources, the college upholds its commitment to fair assessment and student development, as implicitly required by the overarching goal of a rigorous and equitable entrance examination. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on positive framing, without acknowledging areas needing development, fails to provide students with a realistic understanding of their preparedness. This can lead to a false sense of security and hinder genuine progress, violating the principle of providing accurate information. Another incorrect approach that involves fabricating or exaggerating positive trends misleads students and the institution about the true state of performance. This is a direct ethical violation, as it involves deception and compromises the validity of the assessment data. Furthermore, an approach that ignores the data altogether or uses it to create undue pressure without offering support is also professionally unsound, as it neglects the responsibility to guide and assist students through the examination process. Professionals in educational settings should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes data integrity, ethical communication, and student support. This involves critically evaluating the implications of any communication strategy, ensuring it is grounded in factual data and aligns with the institution's ethical standards and the spirit of fair assessment. The focus should always be on empowering students with accurate information and resources to succeed. Question 18. The investigation demonstrates that Joe, a prospective student preparing for the Anicuns College entrance exam, has inadvertently discovered a digital repository containing past exam papers that were never officially released by the college. He is under significant pressure to perform well to secure admission. Considering the principles of academic integrity and fair competition inherent in the Anicuns College entrance exam process, what is the most ethically sound course of action for Joe? Option A. Joe should share the link to the unauthorized exam papers with his friends who are also preparing for the Anicuns College entrance exam to help them prepare. Option B. Joe should download the unauthorized exam papers and use them to familiarize himself with the exam's format and content to improve his chances of admission. Option C. Joe should report the existence of the unauthorized exam papers to the Anicuns College administration to ensure the integrity of the entrance exam. Option D. Joe should refrain from accessing or using the unauthorized exam papers and prepare for the exam solely through legitimate study methods. The correct answer is D. Joe should refrain from accessing or using the unauthorized exam papers and prepare for the exam solely through legitimate study methods. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates a scenario where a student, Joe, is facing academic pressure and has discovered a method to access past exam papers that were not officially released by Anicuns College. This situation is professionally challenging because it tests the integrity of the academic process and the ethical responsibilities of individuals within the educational institution. The pressure to succeed, coupled with the temptation of illicitly obtained information, creates a conflict between academic honesty and perceived necessity. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation in a manner that upholds the principles of fairness and academic rigor. The correct approach involves Joe recognizing the ethical implications of using unauthorized exam materials and choosing to refrain from doing so. This aligns with the core principles of academic integrity, which are fundamental to the Anicuns College entrance exam's regulatory framework. The college's guidelines, implicit in its entrance exam process, mandate honesty and fair play. By not using the leaked papers, Joe demonstrates respect for the established examination procedures and the equal opportunity afforded to all candidates. This ethical stance ensures that his performance is a true reflection of his own knowledge and preparation, rather than an unfair advantage. An incorrect approach would be for Joe to utilize the leaked exam papers. This action constitutes academic dishonesty, a direct violation of the principles governing the Anicuns College entrance exam. Such a breach undermines the credibility of the examination process and devalues the efforts of other students who are preparing through legitimate means. It creates an unfair playing field and compromises the integrity of the admissions process. Another incorrect approach would be to share the leaked papers with other students. This exacerbates the academic dishonesty, extending the unfair advantage and potentially leading to widespread breaches of integrity within the applicant pool. This behavior not only violates ethical standards, but also contravenes any explicit or implicit rules of conduct expected of prospective students. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the ethical guidelines and regulations governing the academic environment. When faced with a temptation that compromises integrity, an individual should first identify the potential consequences of their actions, both for themselves and for the broader community. This involves considering the principles of fairness, honesty, and respect for established procedures. In this case, Joe should reflect on the purpose of the entrance exam to assess genuine aptitude and preparation. Opting for the ethical path, even if it means facing greater personal challenge, is paramount. Seeking guidance from trusted mentors or college advisors, if available and appropriate, can also be a valuable step in navigating complex ethical dilemmas. Question 19. The analysis reveals that a student preparing for the Anicuns College entrance exam discovers an online forum where past candidates discuss strategies and share resources. Some posts mention unofficial study guides claiming to cover predictive content, and others discuss methods of memorizing complex formulas without understanding their derivation. The student is concerned about maintaining academic integrity while maximizing their chances of success. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for the Anicuns College entrance exam? Option A. Sharing and discussing answers to practice problems with other students using materials obtained from unverified online sources to gauge understanding. Option B. Focusing exclusively on the official syllabus, recommended textbooks, and practice materials provided or endorsed by the Anicuns College entrance exam administration. Option C. Utilizing unofficial study guides that claim to predict exam content and memorizing formulas without understanding their underlying principles, as suggested by some forum participants. Option D. Seeking out and purchasing guaranteed success packages advertised on social media, which promise to provide an unfair advantage. The correct answer is B. Focusing exclusively on the official syllabus, recommended textbooks, and practice materials provided or endorsed by the Anicuns College entrance exam administration. Explanation. The scenario presents a common ethical dilemma faced by students preparing for a competitive entrance exam: the temptation to gain an unfair advantage through unauthorized means. The professional challenge lies in upholding academic integrity and adhering to the strict rules of the Anicuns College entrance exam, which are designed to ensure a fair and equitable assessment for all candidates. Careful judgment is required to discern between legitimate study methods and those that violate the exam's regulatory framework. The correct approach involves utilizing only the officially sanctioned study materials and preparation methods explicitly permitted by the Anicuns College entrance exam guidelines. This upholds the principle of academic honesty, which is a cornerstone of educational institutions. Specifically, relying solely on the provided syllabus, recommended textbooks, and official practice tests ensures that the student is preparing within the defined boundaries of the examination. This aligns with the regulatory framework's implicit requirement for fair play and equal opportunity, preventing any candidate from benefiting from information or methods not accessible to others. An incorrect approach that involves seeking out and utilizing leaked exam questions from previous years is a direct violation of academic integrity and the exam's regulatory framework. This constitutes academic misconduct, as it provides an unfair advantage and undermines the validity of the assessment process. Such an action would be considered a breach of trust and could lead to severe penalties, including disqualification from the exam and potential disciplinary action by the college. Another incorrect approach, such as purchasing a guaranteed pass study guide from an unverified online source, also represents a failure to adhere to the spirit and letter of the exam's regulations. While not directly involving leaked questions, these guides often make unsubstantiated claims and may contain information that is not aligned with the official curriculum, potentially leading to mispreparation or the use of non-standardized study methods. This deviates from the principle of fair preparation and could be seen as an attempt to circumvent the established assessment process. A third incorrect approach, such as collaborating with other students to share answers during practice sessions using unofficial materials, also undermines the integrity of the preparation process. While collaboration can be beneficial, doing so with unverified or unauthorized materials, especially with the intent of replicating exam conditions unfairly, is problematic. It blurs the lines of individual assessment and can lead to a reliance on external input rather than genuine understanding, which is contrary to the goal of individual evaluation. Professional decision-making process for students in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the Anicuns College entrance exams rules and regulations. This includes familiarizing oneself with what constitutes acceptable and unacceptable study practices. When faced with a choice, students should always err on the side of caution and adhere strictly to official guidelines. If there is any doubt about the legitimacy or appropriateness of a study method or resource, it is best to avoid it and seek clarification from the exam administrators or consult the official documentation. Prioritizing integrity and fair play over the temptation of an easy advantage is paramount. Question 20. System analysis indicates that a prospective student who is preparing for the Anicuns College entrance exam has approached an administrator with a request for advance access to sample exam questions, stating they are struggling with preparation and believe this would significantly improve their chances of success. The administrator must decide how to respond. Option A. Provide the student with a set of sample questions that are similar in style to the actual exam, but not the real questions, to help them prepare. Option B. Agree to provide the student with a few actual exam questions, assuring them that this will be kept confidential and will not be shared with anyone else. Option C. Inform the student about the official study materials and academic support services available, while clearly explaining that providing advance access to exam questions is against the Anicuns College entrance exam's academic integrity policy and would invalidate their application. Option D. Advise the student to seek out unofficial sources for practice materials, as long as they are not directly from the exam itself, to gain more exposure. The correct answer is C. Inform the student about the official study materials and academic support services available, while clearly explaining that providing advance access to exam questions is against the Anicuns College entrance exam's academic integrity policy and would invalidate their application. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common ethical dilemma where a student, facing academic pressure, attempts to gain an unfair advantage by seeking unauthorized assistance. The challenge lies in upholding academic integrity and fairness, while also considering the student's circumstances and the institution's commitment to ethical conduct. The Anicuns College entrance exam framework emphasizes a commitment to fair assessment and the prevention of academic dishonesty. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves directly addressing the student's request by explaining the established rules and procedures for the Anicuns College entrance exam, specifically regarding academic integrity and the prohibition of unauthorized assistance. This aligns with the regulatory framework's emphasis on fair and equitable examination conditions for all candidates. By clearly stating the consequences of academic dishonesty and offering legitimate avenues for support, e.g., study resources, academic advising, the institution upholds its commitment to ethical assessment and provides the student with appropriate guidance without compromising the integrity of the exam. Correct approach is analysis. Providing the student with the exam questions or answers, even with the intention of helping them pass, constitutes a severe breach of academic integrity and directly violates the principles of fair assessment enshrined in the Anicuns College entrance exam regulations. This action undermines the validity of the examination process and creates an inequitable advantage for the student, potentially disadvantaging other candidates. Ignoring the student's request without providing any guidance or explanation leaves the student in a position of uncertainty and may encourage them to seek further, potentially illicit, means to obtain assistance. This passive approach fails to uphold the institution's responsibility to guide students on ethical conduct and the proper procedures for academic engagement. Suggesting the student cheat on a future exam, even if framed as a lesson learned, is fundamentally unethical and contrary to the core values of academic institutions. It normalizes dishonest behavior and undermines the entire purpose of the entrance exam, which is to assess genuine knowledge and aptitude. Professional reasoning Professionals in educational settings must adhere to established codes of conduct and institutional policies. When faced with a situation involving potential academic dishonesty, the decision-making process should involve 1. Recognizing the ethical implications and potential policy violations. 2. Consulting relevant institutional regulations and guidelines, in this case, the Anicuns College Entrance Exam Framework. 3. Communicating clearly and directly with the individual involved, explaining the rules and consequences. 4. Offering appropriate and legitimate support or resources. 5. Documenting the interaction and any actions taken, if necessary. The priority is always to maintain the integrity of the assessment process and uphold ethical standards.